And now I'd like to welcome Cora. And someone once wrote, Cora Greenhill's poems explore the wild places and natural world of Crete in a deliciously sensual and lived way. Her suggestive vocabulary and cultural accretions energize moments of being and life cycles to produce a pungent and elemental poetry. The raw and cooked are nudged along through nuanced and succulent language. The poems probe, elevate and mark boundaries. They possess a wonderfully grounded quality. They're at once anthropological, physical and magical, and a delight to read. Cora Greenhill.
I wonder who wrote that. Thank you, David, very much. I was going to thank you anyway. Can I try it without the mic? Okay, and I was also going to thank everyone at Tears on the Fence, David, Sarah, and Rosie, actually, because Rosie's your columns have meant so much to me over the years. Really, they're the kind of first thing I go to, and it's just wonderful. This is issue 9, which has a poem of mine in it. That was 1991. Mm-hmm. So you can see I've got a lot to thank Tears on the Fence for. I've been supported for such a long time. Yeah, I'm not going to read those early ones. I thought about it, and then I thought, no, better not. Yeah, I could say such a lot of things about what I love about Tears on the Fence, but I know we're limited for time, and a lot has been said already. I had a crap night last night, as we say in the north. A really crap night, and it was a roast pork or what it was, but... I got up really early and I went to the river, Stour, where my landlady had told me you can see otters at dawn. I didn't. How often do you see what you go and look for in nature? You usually see something quite else. But it did make me think I will start the reading with the poem which actually gives the name to my collection, The Point of Waking, which is also about having a crap night. The Point of Waking. The slub and slap of the waves were only a restless ally to my toss and turn that clammy night, and dawn had a dull veneer. Stubbornly aching back and blear from broken sleep, still I stumbled to the water to swim, as I had resolved. On surfacing, I catch a flash, a splinter of sea, a glint like glass in air. Then, alchemically distilling his perky form from black pumice, bright fisher king surveys his day, with me alighting in it. A lot of my poems are about our relationship with non-human life forms and how we kind of make it other. And one of my pet hates at the moment is a slogan by RSPB. Their new slogan, give nature a home. Really? What is that about? This one's called Unhinged. You're moulded in the hot hollow of your bed, like any creature not of the night. But the creaks and crashes that wake you aren't of the forest, and you're not holed in the stable earth or safely nested in the bole of a tree. You are asleep, high in the pink house near the edge of the cliff, its flimsy fixtures straining for a fling with this northwesterly that has a trick of unclasping shutters to slam against windows, a knack of slapping awnings and shaking doors that ache to unhinge. So you must drag your sleep-sodden limbs from their second skin, stumble downstairs, wrench open resistant windows, let the beast in, fanged and freezing. You must fight to fend off its force while you clamp the stiff catches closed again, wrench and secure the latches in their cold metal beds, burrow back to the weak, wasted warmth of yours. It's what you do. Wake up, slough off the sleeping animal, work out what in the world needs doing. The next two, I'd forgotten I'd started with 2 poems about insomnia. I promise there won't be any more. I don't think there will anyway. The next 2 are about working out what in the world needs doing. And they're both set in Crete, as was that previous one, which is set in the winter in Crete. This one's called Well of Sheep. At no point do they bleat. I'm just passing the well and hear a rustle. They must have reached too far to get at those fig leaves. Now they're 10 foot down on bare stone. I offer them what's to hand. Rock lettuce, pelleted stalks of late asphodels. They sniff, cautious, nibble, then munch. There's not much more around, only thorns, rock roses, myrtle, and I don't know if any of that's edible. I keep throwing down fig leaves until the ew's eyes at last look up, meet mine. Leaving something to starve to death goes against being human, I start to explain. Then think of tourists feeding kittens before catching their planes. But that train of thought's too long to follow when I don't know what I can do about these asphodel-munching sheep trapped in this dry well. I've raised their expectations now, but I'm still a stranger here. I listen to the a cappella from the trees and fail to recognise the songs. Have I heard nightingales? The nicotine-gouged faces in the caffeinian will only assault me with words and looks that can't understand what I don't understand. It's midday, May Day. The scent of roasting sheep from tavernas drifts up the valley to us, perched here on the gorge edge. I'm ready for lunch. Bet your sheep are too. They're not my sheep, I've only just met them. You fed them. But I was just passing, and what can I do? There's no one around. Exactly. You can't just leave them here. You'll come back to the stink of corpses, then, after years, wool and bones. And the next one's called Borders, and it's about a human animal that's been stranded. Borders. It was easy to find the herb garden. A young man, dark-skinned, put down his hoe to show us round, beds of rose bergamot, cinnamon trees, 5 varieties of sage, a bank of blue hyssop. He picked us leaves that taste of chocolate, sprigs of things to sniff, savouries, thymes and mints, pointing out subtle differences like someone born to it. Did you grow up here? No. He's from a place in northern Pakistan, famous for cricket. He's walked here, he says. Had to. Eldest son. No, not Afghanistan, he almost laughed. Too dangerous. Through Iran. Arrived in Thessalonica. No work. Athens. No work. Terrible, he says. A friend brought him here. So you're safe now in this lovely garden in Crete? He shrugs, looks at the soil on his feet. I live over there, waving vaguely at mauve mountains. I cannot live in village. Police. No papers. Papers only by Mary. I pinch out a smile. Tagetes are piled on the drying nets, bloody as sunsets. The time is on fire, seething with bees. Even in our own society, we tend to often see other as somehow alien. And we often do this even to our own young people. This poem was written at the end of summer 2011 when there'd been all the riots, and it was like young people, certain kinds of young people, especially young boys, were really being demonised. And I was walking through Sheffield and I saw boys doing parkour. And I don't know, does anyone know Sheffield? There's a fabulous water sculpture right outside the main station in Sheffield. Nobody knows Sheffield? No. Beautiful curved steel water feature, huge. You sort of walk all the way up it. Takes about 3 or 4 minutes. And then there's another water feature coming down the other side, which is stone, and it makes the water all look like blades, so it's representing the steel and the blades of Sheffield. And it is really stunning. And the boys were doing parkour all over this area.
What's parkour?
Parkour is kind of urban gymnastics that young people do. You'll probably understand better when I read the poem. Okay, so this is called Scene in Sheffield. This is what boys are for. To strip to the hip-sagging baggy pants, shrug, slouch, then somersault to the brim of the fountain, cat-crawl the wall, cartwheel, lazy vault a stone plinth, bend knees, and flat-footed freestyle, frog fashion, down all 7 levels of stone slabs, sliced by blades of water. This is what boys do. Brace on the handrail of city steps, spring so that 2 feet lunge up to stand on the next rail, let go, drop back, land squarely in size 12 trainers on the pavement, stroll back to the crowd, unflinching, unsmiling, like no one's watching. Cool as this cutting-edge curve of water on steel. This is what public sculpture's for, to mirror these moves. This is what public spaces are for. This is what this Saturday afternoon's for, sliding down stone banisters on one hip. September, not quite here. This is what boys are. Poems freed in air, above the sandwich wrappers in Sheaf Square, break falling among pigeons. Now, I was very lucky to grow up in the countryside in Ireland, which has completely affected me all my life because I feel very at home in rural situations, and I feel very strongly that our rural environment, our natural environment, can support us. Sometimes it can be more supportive and nurturing than our human families, and that was my experience in a way growing up. The stanza poetry competition recently gave the title of Neglect for their competition, and I thought, neglect, I can do that one. My parents, it was just after the war, my parents were in shock like most parents at that stage. They weren't very well equipped for nurturing children, but they were very progressive and free-minded. So they set us free, and also at another level they neglected us. And so I call this neglect. Excuse me. Neglect your child. Set her free to find home in bogs brush with marigolds, cuckoo flowers, harebells in heather. She'll dawdle the braes, peeling rushes, find green valleys tender, dream alone by the loch on Bin Mountain. Lay no tables. She'll know to slip a hand under the marron's downy breast for warm eggs. Learn to make fire. Build shelters in hollows of bracken, She'd rather watch fine rain fall than feel the cold stove. Or she'll slink to poor neighbours where the peat embers wink under black-bellied pots of perties. A sprinkle of salt, a cup of blue milk with a wrinkle of cream from the churn. A curl of kittens to hold. She'll mount an old donkey with fostered boys, split skin in a fall, let them laugh, spit on grazed hands. But alone she'll find her own piercing cries, hidden in hay bales and on branches rising to open skies. She never was yours. She'll hitchhike to Istanbul, sleep under new arrangements of stars, with the half moon lying back. She'll not know where a day will put her down, may learn to trust the mysterious kindness of strangers. Okay, I think it said in my biog on the programme that I left Blandford Forum, my first teaching job where I met David, to go to Africa, and that's also been a big influence in my life. I've been back to Africa several times, and obviously done writing. The first time I went, I was teaching in Nigeria, but other trips have followed on. This one is from the east of Africa, and it's called Endangered. A pretty slip of a thing, purest green serpentine, slithers past my bare foot, lithe on warm sandstone, to whip up the leg of the next sunbed. In the circumstances, in the situation of the hotel pool, the children playing on the edge, though I am also enchanted, and in the lightning moment think it is the harmless kind that lives under rafters, not the green mamba. But I know, for I see a thin loop of him now, still in the shade of the mattress, that I will not lie on a bed with a slinky young snake beside me. So, with a look to a woman with a tray of drinks, whose eyes follow mine, I betray him. "The Maasai!" she shrills, as the tray sways and steadies, and the Maasai guard is here with Nagual speed, slim, sleek, black, in his dapper red wraps, bone anklets, machete erect. I won't look to where excited children gather around the limp thing in his hand. How am I doing, David?
2 more.
Yeah, only 2.
Looks like it.
Oh, oh no! Don't know which ones to do. Maybe I'll do a... I've got a great affinity with woolly mammoths, and I've written poems in the voices of woolly mammoths. So I'll risk reading this one. This one's called Mammoth Memory. It is thought that humans did have a role in making mammoths extinct, although it wasn't the only factor. It was just as much to do with climate change, but when there were smaller populations and climate change had done for the huge, a lot of them, men with their bows and arrows came along and kind of, yeah, probably. Mammoth Memory. We slept, standing. Only our hooves could fend the ice. We carried heat deep in our core in a forest of fur, frozen at dawn, our snoring a rumble of thunder on the plains. The old and the youngest hemmed in at the heart of the herd. We cleaved the steps, shoveling snow with our tusks, grazing at the edges of ice sheets, pulping the crust of the tundra, a maquis of bristles, dog lichen, and spiky sedge in the churns of our bellies. A must was a rare thing. We were all heft and habit. Even fear came slowly like the erosion of cold. Mostly when the journeys were made and memories shared, an old one died standing, held up by the press, till she drew her last breath. Only then lowered kindly, lingered over, and left. We'd known lightning, its flash, even its singe. But your arrows speed level, burn straight into flesh, pierce through skin to jag bone, sever artery, make spurt lifeblood like geyser. A lightning quick death. We are all in must now, a tornado of terror, ruminating mass turned mayhem. Pelts are rent, ribs cracked, tusks splintered. We trample the carnage of ourselves. One more?
Yes, please.
Oh, now there's a difficult one. Okay. This one's set in the future. I haven't read any of my personal ones or any love poems, except to the world out there. This one's called Unpainted Desert, and it's a future fantasy about when the deserts have dried up and no longer bloom. The plants and colours referred to in it are Navajo plants, so it's kind of set in the Arizona desert. It's in a young person's voice. Unpainted Desert. We had our one blanket, and the colours in it had names. Names of the plants from this land in the times when the desert still flowered. So we could name all the colours of grains of sand. The yellows, rabbit brush, cliff rose, and snakeweed. Browns were onions, oak bark, and tea. Deep red was juniper, but most precious of all was a pink from a shrub called purple bee. These grains were so few, they were kept in a skull of a grasshopper the wind had spun in. And we'd ask and ask, what were rabbits? What were bees? What was a snake? And what the colour of grass? A brighter, cooler colour than we'd ever seen, they said. The colour of wet, the colour of clean. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Michael?